Hay que recordar que él tiene ascendencia africana. Los africanos son muy buenos corriendo. Tell him!
He says that you have to remember that his descendants from Africa were great runners, and that he forgot that. He should have planned better for that.
Oh my God, dude. Fucking Yoel Romero. Ugh. He's not going to get canceled. No chance. Oh, man. That's wild. I figured I'd throw that little gem in there. I want to get a soundboard of of all the great MMA quotes. My balls are hot. Go get my coffee, Nate. I was thinking about that one because I didn't fill my goddamn coffee cup. You know what? I'm going to take a quick break. I'm already breaking. I'm 10 seconds in. I'm going to break. I need coffee if I'm going to do this shit. All right, we back. I'm ready. I'm fired up. I've got my coffee, got some water. My dogs are in the room. They're actually being good. And yeah, we're good to go, baby. It's been a while. Last time, and by the way, get a frother. Get the you can get a cheap little coffee frother on Amazon. It makes a huge difference. It is delectable. Yeah, it's been a minute, guys. It's been a minute since UFC 248, I guess it is. That was Yoel and Izzy, which is why it's pretty appropriate that I played that quasi-racist clip of Yoel Romero before this, and his grievances with Israel Adesanya running. I mean, none of them really pulled the trigger in that fight. I think Izzy got a lot of backlash due to his build-up, where he said he was going to finish Yoel, be the first guy to really stop him properly. But, you know, we're here now. And that was actually, following that weekend was awful for me. You know, that's right when the coronavirus was really ramping up. On Monday, following that fight, I did lose my job. And then the lockdowns really started about a week after that. So, shit's been wild, but we collecting checks from the government, baby. We good. We good for now. But I've been training like an MMA fighter in the sense that I've just been getting red pilled left and right on this on the coronavirus and it being a power play from the government. I won't get into that. This is not a conspiracy cast, but shout out War Mode. Subscribe to War Mode for $1 on Patreon, and they will open your eyes to a lot of shit. Free David Icke, baby. But yeah, I've been training like an MMA fighter, trying to spar my friends on House Party, who are all CNN talking points. But we're here. The coronavirus took my gerb and it took my dignity. But we're back and we're here for 249. The UFC trudges on. Thank you, North Carolina government, because you are paying for my pay-per-view purchase this upcoming Saturday. And yeah, man, and this is an exceptional card from top to bottom. I mean, I'm a goddamn professional today. I've got SureDog open. I've got notes on the co-main and main events. But just looking at this SureDog card, dude, I mean, I'm not going to be able to go through all of this. I'm not educated or interesting enough to really break all of these down. I encourage you to listen to Weasel MMA. His YouTube videos are fucking awesome. He's going to do he just announced today he's going to do a breakdown of the entire card, which will be great. I'm curious to see what some of his predictions are. But yeah, man, I mean, to have Jacare versus Uriah Hall that early on the prelims, right after Vincente Luque and Nico Price. Jesus. Did I say Vincente Luque? Gee, I'm on my Brendan Schaub. I can't speak. Shout out Homeless Cats. Shout out War Mode. Shout out fucking, I don't know. Shout out Tony Ferguson, the type of guy to shadow box at a funeral. I'm so amped for him, man. I mean, I'm glad he's getting paid. I am bummed. When this fight first got announced, before Tony Justin got canceled the first time, because we still don't know what could happen this week. It's still early. But yeah, before it got canceled. By the way, shout out Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, it's appropriate. That's where Limp Bizkit's from. But that would be the place in America that condones and encourages sports to get back to normal. It's pretty hilarious. But yeah, I was bummed because obviously Khabib's not fighting, and it's so easy for us to say, why doesn't Tony just wait until September? Well, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure he has a mortgage. He probably prefers that his wife doesn't work because he's a professional athlete, and he has a kid, and he probably just wants to fight, dude. I mean, you have to yes, he already won the interim belt, and he's fighting for it again. Assuming he fought on April 18th and beat Khabib, which there's a strong case for him potentially being able to beat Khabib. Let's say he did, his next fight would have probably been Justin over the summer. If he were to wait 4 months, that would put us in August. It would be like an end of summer card, or maybe end of the year card, depending on how much damage he took against Khabib. But this would be his first title defense if he were to have beat him. I mean, no question, because Justin would have waited. It seems like he would have waited to fight for the title. Or he would have fought Conor, But I don't think Conor wants to fight Tony. Why risk losing to Tony if you're Conor McGregor? But we're not here to talk McGregor. I want to get a soundboard for MMA, because that would have been a great time to drop the "Where you at, McNuggets?" or to drop a quick "My balls are hot." I want to be a cringy morning radio MMA journalist. That'd be a new vertical. All right. But like I said, I'm only going to go through the co-main and the main events for UFC 249. It's going to be awesome, dude. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. I'm going to buy the whole thing. I'm going to watch it top to bottom. I'm going to smoke a lot of Sherm and watch this damn card. I hope I don't fall asleep. Yeah, we're here, man. I did a pretty in-depth analysis. I used Fight Pass. Shout out Fight Pass. They've been throwing a lot of cool martial arts movies on there too. Yeah, just being able to break down Henry and Cruz, Ferguson and Gaethje. I think I have a pretty good grasp on how these fights are going to go. But let's see, man. Let's see. And all the fights leading up to this are just barn burners, dude. Hardy, Jorgen, is that how you pronounce it? Jorgen De Castro. He's undefeated going against Hardy. Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stevens. Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. Also undefeated. Fuck. Yeah. I think a lot of finishes coming up here. And God damn it, dude. I kind of hope if Cerrone loses that he hangs it up. I hate to say it, but him going against Pettis again at 170, that's rough. That's real rough. But yeah, let's get into it. I just actually got done watching some YouTube clips from the Weighing In podcast. That's Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy. Very interesting because Josh Thompson fought Tony Ferguson, and I was reminded of that yesterday listening to Ariel Helwani and DC's video cast. DC reminded us all that his training partner, Josh Thompson, fought Tony, and the beginning of the end against Tony was really that initial elbow that I think dropped him. But, I mean, Josh Thompson looked horrific at the end of that fight. I encourage you to watch that. That was a 3-rounder unanimous decision in Tony's favor, but it was impressive, dude. But yeah, Josh Thompson has Tony Ferguson for this fight. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going Henry Dominic. And it's funny, dude, because I'm more psyched and intrigued by the Henry Dominic fight, partially because I won't be as sad no matter what the outcome is for Henry versus Dominic. I will be devastated if Tony loses, and I think a lot of people will be. I mean, it's hard to not root for Justin in any other circumstance, but I'm definitely not alone here. But if Tony loses, we're not gonna see him fight Khabib. He would have to get another win, and who's he gonna fight? Like I said, Conor's not gonna want to fight Tony. fight Dustin Poirier, but then you have to finish Dustin, and that's no easy task. So yeah, but let's dive into Henry versus Dominic, because this is gonna be a good fight, dude. Assuming that Dominic doesn't have ring rust. I mean, we saw him versus Cody Garbrandt almost 4 years ago. Was that 2016? Cody was just too quick. That's fascinating, because Cody was just fast and elusive, and he was taking him down. He was dropping him. Cody looked unstoppable. He looked like the next generation of bantamweights. And then he got starched by EPO Dillashaw. So who knows? I mean, fuck the TJ Dillashaw, dude. He might have really destroyed the career of Cody Garbrandt. Yeah, I was there live for that knockout. That was rough. But yeah, so it's interesting to see Dominic come back in and get a title shot, but I think it's warranted. Josh Thompson and Big John were talking about this, where, there are certain guys that no matter the recent outcome, I mean, you give them a title shot. And it's not, GSP got a title shot in a different weight class against Michael Bisping. So given how long Dominic was able to retain the bantamweight title, I think this is warranted, and it's not as if he was just sitting around with his thumb up his ass for 4 years. I mean, he's a pretty solid analyst, man. My only gripe against him as an analyst was actually during the Conor and Khabib fight. I think he was clearly giving Conor a little bit too much credit, while he's just claims that Conor was trying to gas Khabib out from the bottom. Who the fuck would ever do that? Well, Tony Ferguson would do that. It's the only person I would say has the capability of gassing someone out while they're mounted. Shout out Kevin Lee. But yeah, dude, it's gonna be interesting to see Dom versus Henry, because will ring rust be a factor? Dominick Cruz is very, very vocal in his ring rust denial. He's he's the flat earther of ring rust advocates. I am Brendan Schaub. I can't speak, but yeah, let's dive into it, baby. We got Henry Cejudo. I mean, dude, bantamweight Cejudo seems to be on another level, like, at least with his power and his pressure. We saw last time we saw him, he won the bantamweight title, became Triple C, Triple Cringe. But his grit and determination are fantastic, man. When Henry fights and isn't totally reliant on his technical ability, because he is technical. I mean, 2 fights prior to that, I didn't really watch the TJ fight, because what can you really say with a 40-second finish? I think TJ was just depleted in that fight. I still think Henry would have won even if he weren't depleted. But yeah, he knocked his head around like a pinball, and that is satisfying. But yeah, Henry was very technical against Mighty Mouse. I went back and watched that fight, and I love Mighty Mouse. He's probably my top 3 favorite fighters, so I was very bummed. I never actually watched that fight in its entirety. I just watched highlights. If I were to have done this cast and not watched that fight in its entirety, I probably would have said, oh, DJ clearly could have won, but his Henry's top control was so crazy in that fight. When he, in his inside trips, when he has underhooks, even overhooks, and is able to score an inside trip, that spelled the beginning of the end for Mighty Mouse. So I can only imagine that's going to spell the beginning of the end for a lot of guys. And he's wide, dude. Like he's short. He was clearly the smaller guy against Marlon, but looking at him against DJ, I think if he were to put the pressure on like he did against Marlon, he could have really bullied DJ around. And that's what he did against Marlon. That's how he won the title. He ditched his technical abilities of attempting takedowns, and he ditched that karate stance because he was eating leg kicks when he had that karate Conor McGregor stance. But by the midway point of the second round, He just said, you know what? I'm just going to clinch up. I'm going to throw some overhands. I'm going to push forward. The knees up the middle, that tie clinch that he had, just throwing knees. There was one in particular that really spelled the beginning of the end for Marlon. And then, dude, Marlon's corner the round before he got finished, saying, "Think of what your mother sacrificed. Think about what your mother." It's like, dude, does that shit help? Does that help people? I don't think my mom. I don't want to think about my fucking mom right now. God damn. But yeah, his tie clinch was great. That's what really gassed him. His dirty boxing is fucking incredible. It's very similar to what you see DC do with his dirty boxing. And against a taller guy, which he's going to be only really be facing taller guys if he continues to defend his bantamweight title. So that's going to have to be something that he continues to perfect and work on, just to be able to throw caution to the wind. 'Cause he could finish guys, man. He could. He's clearly strong, and he has a hell of a fucking chin on him. But yeah, he found a lot of success there when he won the title. I would imagine that Dominic is training inside kicks because, force a habit. I would imagine that Henry tries to come out with that karate stance. At the very least, his leg will be forward. But, Henry's no dummy either. He may be anticipating those inside kicks, and maybe he'll try to ankle pick him. But that's not going to be easy. I'm saying this assuming we're going to see the same Dom that we saw against Uriah Faber and TJ Dillashaw. Hopefully we won't see the same Dom that we saw against Cody, because Cody was too fast for Dominic, which means Henry will be lightning speed compared to Cody, because Henry's fast, dude. That was watching him versus DJ was, you would have thought you were watching a YouTube video on 1.5 speed. Those guys are so fast. His head kicks, doesn't seem as if he has a lot of power in his head kicks, but they are accurate and they are quick, dude. It's just something that he can utilize to kind of change up his attacks. But he does leave himself open for headshots. I do think a head kick to, I believe it's the left side of his head, will be there all day. But yeah, dude, he looked great when he won the bantamweight title, just employing that ground and pound and pressuring him and bullying Marlon against the fence. The problem with Marlon was that he put a lot of power into his strikes in the first round, which clearly gassed him. And that may have been why it seemed like he didn't really take his foot off the gas when he fought Jose Aldo. When Henry is within kicking range, he doesn't seem to do so well. Like I said, he does have a high kick that he can employ as offense. Dominic has a 5-inch reach advantage, which could play a factor, especially on any counters, because if Henry wants to really show that he is gritty and he is willing to just bite down on his mouthpiece and move forward, he's going to have to push forward. That's when Dominic really counter him effectively and just become elusive. Henry is susceptible to low kicks and body kicks. In the second Mighty Mouse, he was using that, like I said, that pawing method, but this could potentially make the first round very boring against Dominic if he does come out with that pawing Conor McGregor stance. But yeah, against DJ, Henry was good about getting on the inside in order to counter on the breaks. I just don't know if it's going to be super effective against someone like Cruz, someone with the head movement that Cruz has. If he could get some trips in there and take Dom down, I think that could be effective, but it's going to be hard for him to control a bigger man like that. Mighty Mouse is small compared to Henry, and that's why he was able to really just wear on him from the top. I think Dominic would be able to shoot back up. And later in the rounds, Mighty Mouse's corner was telling him to try to find some knees up the middle because Henry was dipping his head a lot. And I don't think DJ he wasn't long enough to really time those correctly, but Dominic is long enough and he's fast enough to do that. Again, assuming we see the Dominic of old, WEC Dominic. I mean, that would be wild. I mean, and DJ in the last round was so desperate to not get taken down against Henry that he started really engaging him and putting on the pressure, but was just getting countered. He was getting caught with at least one solid strike off the break. And I would say this could happen between Dominic and Henry, but that's only if Dominic's head movement doesn't hold up late in the fight. I mean, Dominic's head movement is on another level. But I predict we'll be seeing a lot of feeling out and stance switching in the first round against Cruz on Henry's part. Maybe Henry throws caution to the wind early just to kind of prove that there is an existence of ring rust. But yeah, I gotta say too, I'm not a fan. Watching the Mighty Mouse fight, I'm really not a fan of Henry's corner. He has this like effeminate ginger guy and the tiny Hispanic dude with the white librarian glasses. I do not like them, dude. I'm not a fan. But yeah, let's see how that goes. I mean, Dominick Cruz, assuming he shows up, is a very interesting and formidable opponent. His speed, his overhand right, moving to his left, takedown defense was on point against TJ Dillashaw when they fought one another. Like I said, I mean, something was up with him for that Cody fight. Either Cody was just way too good on that one, because Cody was a knockout artist before that. So it was crazy to see him kind of download Cruz's game and just destroy him with it by unanimous decision. When Cruz is on the back foot, it almost works to his advantage because he can maintain his elusiveness, and it's really hard to put his back flat against the cage. You rarely, especially in the WEC days, is really rare that you're able to do that against him. It'll be interesting to see how both men utilize leg kicks. Like I said, those inside kicks are there all day if Henry employs that karate stance. But yeah, Cruz and Ferguson are very similar in that you think they're getting hit more often than they actually are. If you watch replays of their fights in slow motion, you see just how easily they can roll with any shot and just make you hit air. With Ferguson, he's fighting bigger guys, so it appears as if he is getting clipped, but it's just shoulder rolls, man. These guys are it's all these glancing shots that don't ever really fully connect. It's surprising that more guys don't try kneeing Dominic on the break, given that he exits with his head low, like a wacky waving inflatable tube man guy. But yeah, Henry does have a nice Muay Thai clinch like we saw against Marlon, which kind of spelled the beginning of the end for Marlon. So it'd be interesting if he capitalizes on that, just trying to get in quick and then break and counter quick, which, like I said, he also did well against Mighty Mouse. If Dominic does take Henry down, which I really don't see happening against the Olympian, but he would not be able to control Henry there. I mean, TJ was able to scramble back to his feet against Dom with ease, even after near exhaustion. Granted, he was likely on EPO. Can't really hold that against Dominic. But when Cruz fought Benavidez in WEC, those were two wild fights. Pressure, I mean, wizards, his jogging, Muhammad Ali style combinations. I mean, just pressing forward and throwing hands, dude. Like just chasing him down and throwing hands. Those fights are so fucking crazy. Benavidez beat Henry. Not that MMA math means anything, but yeah, I would imagine that Henry is at least looking at those fights to maybe anticipate some Dominic pressure. And in WEC, Dominic towered over most of these opponents because that was before flyweight was really a thing. So you have a lot of smaller guys just trying to get down to the lightest weight possible. Dominic has a lot of success when he's fighting shorter guys. it's probably easier to slip and to maintain that elusiveness. So I see this going the distance. I see this going 5 rounds, and the longer it does go, I do favor Dominic. But again, this is assuming this is the Dominic of like 2014, 2015. If that's the case, I take Dominic by a split decision, but I think it's going to be a hell of a fight, dude. I really do. If Dominic is caught slipping at all, I think Henry will find a way to TKO him. But I'm taking Cruz by a split decision. Now let's move on to El Cucuy versus the Highlight. All right. I'm not going to lie to you people. I just paused and came back. My dogs were acting a fool. Had to kick them out. And then I got a little hungry. I ate a sandwich. I refilled my coffee. I ate some chips, ate some pineapple, ate some dark chocolate. And now this Tony Justin analysis is likely going to be very sour, like the rancid bile that's building in my stomach. But yeah, I'm so excited to watch Tony Justin. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better fight during this time. I'm so interested to see how both guys are going to react without an audience being present. Tony will likely be less affected by the lack of an audience than Justin would be. I mean, Justin is the highlight. He loves the audience. The audience typically always loves him. He always, or at least seems, to feed off their energy, where El Cucuy really could not be bothered, you know. One way or another, I think him training up in Big Bear and just building his own gym and being kind of a renegade. I don't know if the audience really has much of an effect on his performance, but Tony versus Justin, so interesting. Like I said, Justin likely would have been Tony's first title defense as it is. So this fight, in one way or another, was inevitable. It's also a fan favorite fight. Assuming Tony doesn't retire until he's 40, 41, and Khabib does retire once assuming he becomes 30-0, I won't see a universe where Tony and Justin wouldn't fight. I do want to see Tony move up to welterweight eventually, but he has to fight Khabib. And in this fight, and listening to Josh Thompson talk about Tony and talk about his experience in the cage with Tony and how confident he is in Tony's ability to just outclass Justin, it really kind of put things in perspective for me. Tony is long, he's rangy, and yet still has the hand speed and creativity to compete in the pocket with a 76-inch reach versus Justin's 70-inch reach, which is pretty average for a lightweight. Conor McGregor and Tony and Kevin Lee are anomalies in the reach department. Again, like I said earlier, similar to Dominick Cruz, watching a Tony fight in slow motion allows you to witness just how well he rolls with punches. And it'll be interesting to see him evade Justin's punches because, I mean, Justin has some devastating counter punches. Tony could keep a long range against Justin with that 76-inch reach, but then you're in kicking distance. So you can eat a lot of leg kicks, and his bionic left leg that he tore off the bone 2-3 years ago, that could be a target. That's what Anthony Pettis attempted to target. But Tony is just as good as a southpaw, so with right leg forward, it really won't make a difference. I think Tony's key to victory is to stay in range just long enough to pop a combination, close the distance, and end it with an elbow like he does. I particularly watched 3 fights for this analysis. Obviously the latest 2 ones, Pettis and Cerrone, and then also his RDA fight, because RDA was also a great striker. That was right when RDA lost the title or shortly after it, and he has the same reach as Justin. So and he went all 5 rounds in Mexico City of all places too. So yeah, those really gave me some insight into his entrances and his exits. When he does get into the pocket, he really is a master of exiting the pocket or ending combinations with sharp, dangerous elbows. In the first round against Donald, Tony didn't look as great as I think people anticipated him to look, but it also looked like he started getting a little too comfortable, like RDA levels of comfortable, where he's salsa dancing. He got to that stage of comfortability very early on, and almost seems like he wasn't taking the fight as seriously as he should have. But Justin has not ever fought a guy like that. Tony is way too creative, way too unpredictable. I mean, you look at Justin's hardest fights in the UFC, and they were against guys who mix it up. I'm talking Michael Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier. Compare those three to James Vick, Donald Cerrone, and Edson Barboza. You know, those guys are a little bit more predictable, and you can never, I mean, it's really hard to call an MMA fighter one-dimensional, but comparatively to the first three gentlemen I mentioned, they could be called one-dimensional. Tony did get caught a few times at the end of Cerrone's jab in round one, but like I said, it almost felt like he took that round off, and he was trying to play mind games a bit. Like his mind games that he was playing against RDA were pretty masterful. Just kind of touching his knees and going in with his crazy rolls and takedowns. But yeah, I can't even, I mean, after Tony landed that first sharp elbow, I think it was 2 minutes and 46 seconds left on the clock of the first round against Donald, you could really see the tide start to shift. I can't imagine how sharp and stunning those elbows really are. Same thing happened, like I said earlier, in that Josh Thompson fight. Thompson looked like a homicide victim. Tony landed a handful of kicks to the body against Donald, which is probably something to watch out for against Justin, because Eddie Alvarez had a lot of success going to the body against Justin. Tony's corner after round one against Donald said elbows are there all day, but they also said, you know, you respect him too much, we need pressure. And goddamn, like he delivered right out the bat. Push kick, pushed him against the fence. And the end of round one, Joe Rogan claimed that Donald Cerrone hurt Tony. And I could see why he would have thought that. But as soon as they showed the slow motion replay going into the second round, I mean, Rogan's got to chill with the alpha brain, bruh. Tony's eyes are so sharp. He clearly saw every single shot coming towards the end of the first round in their very last exchange. And to the naked eye, it did seem like Tony got caught, but it was all shoulder rolls. It was insane. And Cowboy's nose was clearly broken around after the first minute of the second round. And that was just the beginning of the end, dude. I mean, that late shot after the horn of the second round, yeah, that wasn't great, but he would have got beaten so badly if a third round did ensue. Tony did get dropped against Anthony Pettis, but he was also just kind of doing some wild shit at that point. And after he was able to recover, after the doctor paused, or the ref paused to wipe their faces from all the blood that was coming out of Anthony Pettis' hairline, it was just the Tony Ferguson show from there on out. And a lot of the success that Tony... And by the way, when Tony... People tend... Even Big John and Josh Thompson don't seem to talk about this. But after Tony got dropped, he shot right back up and threw a spinning elbow and then an overhand right hit Tony in the back of the head. It's hard to say that it really hurt him because he somersaulted out of it. Now, if your equilibrium is off or you just get rocked in the back of the head, the last thing you're going to be thinking, well, I shouldn't say the last, but your first instincts aren't going to be to somersault. And when he came up for that spinning elbow, that's what cut Pettis on his hairline and required the referee to pause the fight. So I think this whole narrative, I mean, granted, he left the left side of his head exposed, and he was susceptible to that overhand right. I do think if he doesn't plug that hole, the overhand right is going to be dangerous against Justin. But to say that Pettis rocked him, just rocked him, is not very true. Yeah, So, and that Pettis fight was also 6 months after tearing his leg off the bone and doing no physical therapy. But I do kind of believe Tony will start the Justin fight similar to the Pettis fight. He was very defensive in the first 2 to 3 minutes, yet very mobile, just keeping Pettis on his back foot, very jab heavy, used a lot of push kicks. I would keep an eye out for those because that goes to the body. He's going to want to soften up his body a bit. I don't know if Justin will really allow you to pressure him like the way that Pettis allowed him to pressure him, but being in there with Tony just seems like you're sort of taken out of your element. And if Tony does back Justin against the fence like he did with Pettis, I'd watch for Justin to try an overhand right off of the cage. When Tony was dropped by Pettis, like I said, it was just due to Tony really not covering up. If he can keep his guard high in the first 2 rounds, I just think he completely outpaces him. But yeah, that was that was rough. I could see a doctor stoppage in this fight too. From Justin. Justin has a lot of scar tissue. I think on the left side of his face, it tends to always kind of open up. Yeah, but watch that RDA fight, man. I mean, it's a full 5 rounds. They were in Mexico City, which is at elevation. Really hard to maintain good cardio there. I mean, RDA had decent cardio too, but the pace he put on him, he had this one combination that was a jab, spinning elbow. This was in the 3rd round, and he completely missed. RDA, I think, parried the jab and then was just out of the way of the spinning elbow, and immediately Tony just did it again. And he was doing this a lot. Anytime that RDA made him miss, or if RDA landed a significant strike, which he didn't, he landed about half the number of significant strikes that Tony did, but when he did land, Tony immediately answered and made him pay for that. Rounds 4 and 5 were wild of that fight. After the first minute of the 4th, Tony landed a knee up the middle against RDA. That was, I mean, again, just another one of the many snowball effects that completely changed the dynamic and pace of the fight. Justin, in his fights against Johnson, Alvarez, and Poirier, and a little bit against Vic, stood a little bit more square than he did against Cerrone and Edson. He seems to have fixed his stance a little bit. And I'm sure that happened because obviously one thing that happened is Eddie Alvarez knocked him out with a knee up the middle. And that could technically still be there all day, especially if he goes to the deep waters with Tony. He could start reverting back to his old ways, because we've seen him on a 3-fight win streak that are 3 first-round knockouts, which, as impressive as they are, they're against guys that were definitely favorable matchups, and Cerrone was taking the fight on short notice and had just gotten obliterated by Tony a few months before. But yeah, so that could be there. His takedown attempts definitely just threw RDA for a loop. That could be something that he can use as a tactic or tool against Justin. And straight up, Tony's corner in the RDA fight, when they were telling him combos that are there, they worked the salsa dancing into the combinations. They said, you salsa, then jab cross, 1-2, or something like that. That was funny. If Tony does continue to switch stances against Justin won't be able to counter him as easily. And he would also save his left leg from just getting destroyed. And speaking of the fact that Justin had 3 first-round knockouts, 2 of them against guys that Tony has fought and also finished, but finished them later, I see some people online pointing out the fact that Justin was able to make quicker work of these guys, but that's unfair to say. And if you've been watching the sport long enough, I would hope that you would realize that that's unfair to say, because that's more of a testament to their fighting styles. Tony at 170, when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, and shortly after that, he was knocking guys out in the first round. That's how he won The Ultimate Fighter. But he was a knockout artist. Obviously, molding his style and cutting an extra 15 pounds and perfecting his 10th planet grappling, that's going to change the style. You're no longer a knockout artist. You know, Justin stands a chance. He stands a solid chance against Tony. I think everyone's fairly aware of this. You know, Justin has leg kicks, he has left hooks, he has overhand rights. those are going to be big tools. He has a good chin, and it really hasn't been tested since Dustin, because his fights haven't gone on long enough. Tony did eat a handful of those leg kicks against Pettis, and like I said, that overhand right is there. It would be interesting to see Justin pressure Tony against the fence, because Tony lives off pressure. He likes that. The Vic knockout and the Barboza knockout were all due to Justin backing these guys up against the fence. Barboza was the more impressive victory, because obviously he's never been knocked out like that. Vic, sucks to see him just suffer KO after KO, but that's just the way it is. And Barboza never really got finished like that, but I did note, I watched that fight back. At the start, even before the first round, Barboza looked like he had a rough weight cut. He looked very dehydrated compared to how he's usually capable of filling out. Like him against Khabib, he looked ripped and big. But obviously he got ragdolled in that fight. Yeah, but with Tony's 6.5 reach advantage, I wonder how successful Justin will be on the outside with the leg kicks. If Tony's able to check them or dodge them, it's a tough call. It could work in his favor. If he's on the outside, he kicks. If he's on the inside, Justin has some nasty, dirty boxing. Will he employ his wrestling? I don't know. Why put yourself in danger? Why expose your neck? I think Dan Hardy's prediction of this fight is a 3rd or 4th round submission, like a Darce choke. I could definitely see that. Then you also have to wonder, will they be too slippery? It doesn't seem to really be a factor when you're inside Tony's rubber guard. He's still able to pull off. Most of his opponents are drenched in blood by the 3rd or 4th round. So the submissions are still there all day. I do think Justin still leaves his body open a lot. Even in the Cerrone fight, you saw that. He hasn't really employed that shell technique, because when he did that, the uppercuts and the knees were there against Alvarez. The scar tissue could be a factor. Tony's long and straight, an amazing jab, and his huge, heavy hands. His jabs are basically power shots. It will probably deter Justin from wanting to close the distance as the fight goes on. Alvarez did try a few times to land some Anderson Silva style front kick to the face, but like I said, if Justin isn't standing super square, he may not be able to pull that off. But I don't think he initiates takedowns enough, Justin, considering his background, but he has a pretty good eye for takedowns and a solid defense. I think Tony will try to employ that a bit, try to fake some takedown attempts, because that's something he wouldn't have been able to really do against Khabib, or else it wouldn't have really been smart to at least feint a takedown, because why would Khabib ever be intimidated by that? So having this extra time is going to allow him to download some more of Justin's tendencies. Maybe he'll find a hole or two when Justin's attempting to defend a takedown. I don't see Justin doing well with the pressure if we get around 3. Yeah, I don't know. This is really going to tell us this is going to inform us how good Justin really is, obviously. I'm personally of the camp, I'm a fan of Justin, but I'm personally in the camp of him just fighting the right fighters at the right time in order to sustain a 3-fight winning streak, all by first round knockout. Prior to his Barboza knockout, Barboza did get a pretty nasty eye poke, at least it looked like it. Or maybe the glove grazed his eyeball, because his eye was just watering and was completely red out of nowhere. And he did catch him. I think he caught him on that side. Either way, if your eye is spazzing out, you're not going to really see or be mindful of any punches coming your way. Cerrone just doesn't take his head off the center line, unlike Tony, whose head is all over the place. He's not always defending. His chin could be up in the air, but he's always moving. His head is constantly moving. So obviously that was a favorable matchup for Justin. Cerrone was, rather. But yeah, I do think that, Cerrone was employing push kicks against Justin. probably to fight the leg kicks a bit and work his body. Eddie Alvarez was doing this too. I mean, Eddie Alvarez's wife is so annoying, by the way. Anytime you watch an Eddie Alvarez fight, you just hear her in the background. Eddie! What the fuck? Get her out of here. But yeah, they were doing a lot of push kicks that almost looked like and this was my theory, that being able to do that is doing you justice twofold. A, you're obviously working the body of Justin and softening that up and making him mindful of those shots to leave his head exposed. And B, you're also getting the blood pumping in your legs and stretching it out after a pretty nasty chopping leg kick. But his counters were insane. His dirty boxing counters were insane against Cowboy. But I don't see Tony getting tied up in that. So ultimately, I have Tony. And it's just a matter of a submission, or because a submission may require Justin to initiate a takedown, and I could see it playing out as him shooting out of desperation, clinching out of desperation, and then getting Darce choked in the third round. Or I see a doctor stoppage. Going into the fourth round. Those are either one of those. It could go all 5 rounds. I don't think Justin is at the gas tank for 5 rounds, especially since even though this fight got pushed back 3 weeks or so, it's still short notice. It's still short notice for a typical fighter. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch it. I hope Tony wins. You know, it is Cinco de Mayo, and the 2 Mexicans could pull it off. Cejudo and Ferguson. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see you all next time. Follow me on Instagram, Pineapple Dojo MMA. I also have the SoundCloud page still. I still haven't been very active. I posted a beat last time. Didn't have time to post a beat this time around. Looking for a job, trying to get my ass employed. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram, and I'm following a bunch of MMA fighters and pages on there. And hopefully we can make this thing legit. Maybe I'll make some merch. I have some cool artwork for Pineapple Dojo. But thanks, guys. Love y'all. Peace.